Good morning. This is the Paradise Unicorn Priestess bringing you day 286 of A Course in Miracles, the Yin translation where we use female words. This would be October 13th if you're starting at the new year. How is judgment relinquished? Judgment, like other devices by which the world of illusions is maintained, is totally misunderstood by the world. It is actually confused with wisdom and substitutes for truth. As the world uses the term, an individual is capable of good and bad judgment, and her education aims at strengthening the former and minimizing the latter. There is, however, considerable confusion about what these categories mean. What is good judgment to one is bad judgment to another. Further, even the same person classifies the same action as showing good judgment at one time and bad judgment at another time. Nor can any consistent criteria for determining what these categories are be really taught. At any time, the student may disagree with what her would-be teacher says about them, and the teacher herself may well be inconsistent in what she believes. Good judgment in these terms does not mean anything, no more does bad. It is necessary for the teacher of God to realize, not that she should not judge, but that she cannot. In giving up judgment, she is merely giving up what she did not have. She gives up an illusion, or better, she has an illusion of giving up. She has actually merely become more honest. Recognizing that judgment was always impossible for her, she no longer attempts it. This is no sacrifice. On the contrary, she puts herself in a position where judgment through her, rather than by her, can occur. And this judgment is neither good nor bad. It is the only judgment there is, and it is only one. God's child is guiltless, and sin does not exist. The aim of our curriculum, unlike the goal of the world's learning, is the recognition that judgment, in the usual sense, is impossible. This is not an opinion, but a fact. In order to judge anything rightly, one would have to be fully aware of an inconceivably wide range of things, past, present, and to come. One would have to recognize in advance all the effects of her judgments on everyone and everything involved in them in any way, and one would have to be certain there is no distortion in her perception, so that her judgment would be wholly fair to everyone on whom it rests, now and in the future. Who is in a position to do this? Who, except in grandiose fantasies, would claim this for herself? Remember how many times you thought you knew all the facts you needed for judgment and how wrong you were? Is there anyone who has not had this experience? Would you know how many times you merely thought you were right without ever realizing you were wrong? Why would you choose such an arbitrary basis for decision-making? Wisdom is not judgment. It is the relinquishment of judgment. Make then but one more judgment. It is this: there is someone with you whose judgment is perfect. She does know all the facts, past, present, and to come. She does know all the effects of her judgment on everyone and everything involved in any way. And she is wholly fair to everyone, for there is no distortion in her perception. Therefore, lay judgment down, not with regret, but with a sigh of gratitude. Now are you free of a burden so great that you could merely stagger and fall down beneath it. It was all illusion, nothing more. Now can the teacher of God rise up unburdened and walk lightly on. Yet it is not only this that is her benefit. Her sense of care is gone, for she has none. She has given it away, along with judgment. She gave herself to her whose judgment she has chosen now to trust instead of her own. Now she makes no mistakes. Her guide is sure. And where she came to judge, she comes to bless. Where now she laughs, she used to come to weep. It is not difficult to relinquish judgment, but it is difficult indeed to try to keep it. The teacher of God lays it down happily the instant she recognizes its cost. All of the ugliness she sees about her is its outcome. All of the pain she looks upon is its result. All of the loneliness and sense of loss, of passing time and growing hopelessness, of sickening despair and fear of death, all these have come from it. And now she knows that these things need not be. Not one is true, for she has given up their cause. And they, which never were but the effects of her mistaken choice, have fallen from her. Teacher of God, this step will bring you peace. Can it be difficult to want but this? The Course has touched on this subject before, but never so thoroughly and so convincingly as in this passage, where we see how ridiculous and impossible it is that we could judge it all. We'd have to be omniscient. We'd have to know everything, and we don't. Socrates is a fantastic example in this. Socrates joyfully admitted that he knew nothing, and it was his mission to convince others that they knew nothing. And it seems that he would encounter people who were sure they knew something, and Socrates just wanted to show them that there were other ways of looking at things, and the thing they thought they knew, they didn't know. That's all he really wanted, was to convince everyone that they knew nothing, which was something that he already understood. This text reading says that the world is really confused about judgment. The world holds judgment to be wisdom. And that reminds me of Socrates, who said he was the most wise man on earth because he knew nothing. So wisdom is the relinquishment of judgment. Beyond just being wise, it says that giving up judgment is more honest because of all the reasons why we cannot possibly judge anything. This passage says that when the teacher of God relinquishes judgment, it makes an opening whereby judgment may come through her rather than by her. This referring to the judgment of love, the divine judgment of the Holy Spirit, which never asks for sacrifice and never punishes anyone, and is always gentle. And this passage sums up the judgment in the statement that the child of God is innocent and sin doesn't exist. Further, this passage explains that the judgment of love is neither good nor bad, but the only judgment that there is. There's no dichotomy when there's only one. This passage speaks of all the many, many times we merely thought we were right, when we thought we had all the information needed to make a judgment, and then later realized how very wrong we were. And it says, would you know how often you really have been wrong? Pretty much always. This is the real humility that it is so important for us to adopt. This honest humility that we cannot judge. This passage tells us to make but one more judgment, that there is someone with us whose judgment is perfect. That is the Holy Spirit, our guide, our teacher, the voice for God. This is the answer to the problem of how woefully imperfect our judgment is. And it is the comfort, because if our judgment is so imperfect, what are we to do? The conventional wisdom of the world does not teach us that we have such a guide, such a teacher, such a perfect companion on our path. It does not teach us this at all, but the Course does teach it and invites us to test this. And again, as was talked about in a previous episode, the Course in its lessons is having us go to stillness and to listening and to find that guidance so that we may gain confidence in this. It basically says, we are so full of the experiences of the illusion, how could we hope to find our way out until we begin to have experiences of a divine and loving nature? That is where the light shines in the getting quiet, in the listening. We become acquainted with that which we may come to trust. Our guide. It's not outside of us. It's not in the words of other seeming humans, seeming other selves. It is a very still and quiet voice within that we are able to hear when we are quiet and still within. This passage says that when we give up, when we relinquish our judgment, we have given up a burden so great that we could merely stagger and fall down beneath it. And it was an illusion, nothing more. It describes us as rising up unburdened, walking lightly, no more sense of care, for that is gone too. We have comfort and certainty of our path. It says that in this state we're not making mistakes. Instead of judging, we come to bless, and we laugh where we used to weep. Earlier in the text, multiple times it described the effort that it takes to maintain the illusion, how it wearies us, how much effort is in it. Therefore, the promise, the fruits of embracing the principles and understanding that is found in the Course is this lightheartedness, this playful, joyful, carefree spirit and way of being. After reviewing what is the Holy Spirit, which is in show notes, we go on to lesson 286. The hush of heaven holds my heart today. Mother, how still today, how quietly do all things fall in place. This is the day that has been chosen as the time in which I come to understand the lesson that there is no need that I do anything. In you is every choice already made. In you has every conflict been resolved. In you is everything I hope to find already given me. Your peace is mine. My heart is quiet, and my mind at rest. Your love is heaven, and your love is mine. The stillness of today will give us hope that we have found the way and traveled far along it to a wholly certain goal. Today, we will not doubt the end which God herself has promised us. We trust in her and in ourself, who still is one with her. This lesson echoes what A Course in Miracles said earlier, I need do nothing. It says, there is no need that I do anything. And that is an appropriate response to a dream, especially a dream that one does not like. I still remember being a child and having a dream in which it seemed like I was at my house or my backyard or around my family, but everything felt off, everything felt wrong. And I remember in the dream just sitting down and closing my eyes and kind of rocking and telling myself to wake up, because in that dream, doing anything wasn't going to make it any better. And I think in a way this is how we relinquish the dream. There's a perspective of shifting timelines, the idea of being in timelines that are less loving or more loving, less unified and more separated, as opposed to one that is more unified and less separated. And maybe this is kind of how we do it. We let go of less desirable timelines by relinquishing the whole thing. And we let the Holy Spirit rewrite the dream as happy and as unified as we are ready to let it be. And in one perspective, maybe that's moving to a happier timeline. And it's gradual because we are gradual at relinquishing judgment, as it said in the previous reading, that the reason for the gradual change is that we find it insulting to give up judgment. Insulting, yes, perhaps also threatening, and many other things. But we've seen in today's reading that judgment creates hell, and the relinquishment of judgment to love creates peace, it creates paradise, and it leads to heaven. So may we have stillness today and happy practicing.